To be on the other side of Josh Allen this weekend, Aaron Rodgers. He's always in the news because he just loves to talk, that guy. But he was asked today about his future in New York. I want to play the audio of what he said today and get your thoughts on the other side.
If you do want to come back and they want you back, what would that mean to you? I mean, given all that's taken place.
Yeah, it'd mean that they see me as an important part of helping the culture, the changeover, whatever they do at head coach, and helping the next wave of New York Jets. That'd be special to hear that. But if they don't, again, no offense at all will be taken.
What do you make of those words there?
Basically, either you want me or you don't. Let me know early on. That's basically what he's saying, and that he realizes the business of the National Football League, and the business side of it is that I know you're bringing in a new head coach, general manager, probably going to bring in a new quarterback. And if I'm not a part of those plans, let me go somewhere else, and I can kind of find a spot that I can be in. Or would you want me to be a bridge quarterback? Is that something that is in the cards as well? I think he realizes what it is right now. It's been a failure since he's been in the 2 seasons that he's been with the Jets. They have not reached their expectations. And so he realizes that things have to change. Now, he's just trying to figure out, is he a part of that change, or does he need to go and, pick his bags and take his football somewhere else, and hopefully he can find a spot in the league that will allow him to come in and play quarterback? Because I'll tell you this, he's played well, especially this last month, right? This Jets offense has played well. They've been able to get some things going with Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson. Breece Hall came back and run the football a little bit better. The offensive line is just not as good as they had hoped to. But he's got an opportunity, and that's what I said he's playing for against Buffalo these last couple games as well. It's proven that he still belongs in the league. He can still play at a high level in this league. And if he's not playing for the Jets, his audition is for the 31 other teams that say, hey, if we need a starter, he can still be a starter. If not, would he take that role of being a bridge or a backup quarterback?
No, that's a really good point. I think the last 2 weeks here definitely will be a big audition for Aaron Rodgers. Appreciate the time, Kirk. Hopefully we can speak again down the road.
Yeah, sounds good, fellas. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Kirk Morrison from SiriusXM, NFL analyst, former NFLer. That's a really good point he brings up, I guess. A lot of people think he should just it's so bad right now with New York. Why doesn't he just go away? Just go. It's done. He's not coming back. It already sounds like the Jets are moving on from him. Just go away, and no one would be upset. But he does still have something to play for, possibly next season. If he wants to come back, show to the world, show to the other 31 teams, I can still play this thing at a pretty high level. You give me a team with some weapons, a good offensive line, which is very imperative to quarterbacking play at that age, I can still put forward a winning product for your city and for your team.
Well, it'll be interesting to see the fallout from some of his other comments this week about, the possibility of being released by a teenager, essentially a troll of owner Woody Johnston, who has been accused in this Athletic article of taking advice from his 2 teenage sons, Brick and Jack, who are big Madden fans and have alerted their dad to the Madden ratings of certain
Jerry
players.
Jeudy,
Jerry Jeudy in particular. And it's alleged that this team is essentially run by video game. You don't hear pro athletes, how's brother, troll the owner very often.
No.
And we just heard Aaron Rodgers troll the owner of the New York Jets.
Aaron Rodgers has been trolling the world for the last 5 years. This guy just gives no you-know-whats about anything. He just speaks his mind more than anyone else on planet Earth, it feels. And we'll see if it costs him. I will be curious to see how many teams would be lining up for his services.
Well, I'll tell you what, it hasn't been great in the full scope of the season, and obviously very disappointing for the Jets because there were people, I don't know where you stood on Jets preseason Jets prognostications.
Well, they were, if I'm not mistaken, favored to win the division at the beginning of the year.
It seems ludicrous now.
Yeah.
But, they were favorites, and he was a big reason for that. Now, he's had some tough times, obviously, and the offensive line has a lot to do with that. Obviously, the Jets' defense has a lot to do with it. But the last 3 games, you look at it, he's had 5 touchdowns thrown, 0 interceptions, hasn't thrown for less than 250 yards in any of those games, had a 340-yard game against the Miami Dolphins. So he's had some decent results. He's had some flashes of the genius that was Aaron Rodgers in his prime. Now, it's not a consistent, kind of sustained flash, but it's, brief, moments where you go, well, he still got it to some degree. So, given the fact that there's always a handful of teams searching for quarterback talent in this league, and that's a universal truth of the NFL year after year after year. There's just not enough quarterbacks to go around. There's somebody out there that would take a flyer on Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, you would think. Cleveland's an interesting name, actually. Pretty good O-line. They've got some receivers.
Yeah, they've made some questionable quarterbacking decisions in the past. Why not another one?
Why not bring in another distraction?
Exactly.
Why not? I don't know. But, it's really interesting. Aaron Rodgers this week going up against the Buffalo Bills, and that'll be a good game. But I'm excited for those games tomorrow. I like it. Antonio Morrison, Kirk Morrison, likes the Steelers. You know who's on the Steelers? Yeah. Hazenbro on the Steelers. I like it.
1-0 for the week.
We are. Picked a winner last night. Absolutely, we did. All right, Mike Johnson still to come in the 5 o'clock hour. Listen to Overdrive on TSN 1050 and up on TSN 4.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Overdrive continues up on TSN 4 and on TSN 1050. Mike DiStefano and Dave Feschuk in from the Toronto Star. Did you watch that Raptors game last night?
I did.
Yeah. Not a very good one. They lose, was it 139 to 125 to the New York Knicks. OG Anunoby showed up and showed out in front of his new home crowd against his old team. Big night for OG.
OG's a big hero in the Big Apple. I'll tell you that right now. And that Knicks team is rolling. They really are. They'll be playing Christmas Day against the Spurs and Wemby, who, speaking of being on a roll, is currently on a roll.
Wemby's Victor Wembanyama is such a freak of nature. This guy, I was talking about it with producer Owen right before the show. The guy is only in his second year. He's 20 years old?
Yeah.
And he could become a top 5, top 10 player in the NBA by the end of the year.
Oh, yeah.
In just his second season.
He's incredible.
Just the things that he's able to do, the athleticism, his ability to shoot, score, defend. The guy, he's had 18 blocks his last 2 games.
Yeah.
18 blocks.
He's leading the league. He's averaging 4 a game, averaging 25 points. He's shooting 36% from 3, 88% from the line.
Unbelievable.
48% from the field. I think he's been 50, 40, 90 over the last 15 games or so. He's really heating up. It's scary how good this kid is.
It's scary. I want to get into the NBA and their viewership scare and maybe what could be coming tomorrow for Christmas. We'll get into that at the start of the 5 o'clock.
Leafs facing center crisis amid injuries, eyeing trade market for solutions. As the Toronto Maple Leafs battle through a growing injury list and a suspension, their lack of depth at the center position has become a glaring issue. According to Sportsnet's Elliot Friedman in his latest 32 Thoughts article, the Leafs are among the teams exploring trade options to bolster their lineup. This effort is coming amid increasing competition from teams like the Chicago Blackhawks and Nashville Predators, who have also set their sights on improving their center depth. Friedman didn't mince words about the Leafs' predicament. The teams currently focusing on centers, including Chicago and Nashville, must consider when others will enter the market. Toronto will undoubtedly be one of those teams, he wrote. While the Blackhawks and Predators may have an edge in terms of cap space and assets, the Leafs remain a team to watch as the season progresses. The Leafs situation is urgent, with up to 7 forwards currently unavailable due to injury or suspension. Ryan Reeves is serving a 5-game suspension, while key players like Austin Matthews, upper body, Matthew Knies, upper body, Kaye Jarnkrok, groin/sports hernia, David Kampf, lower body, Max Domi, lower body, and Max Pacioretty, lower body, are all sidelined. The team has even considered temporarily shifting Mitch Marner to the center position, highlighting the severity of their depth issues. This isn't just a short-term concern for the Leafs. Depth at center has been a persistent challenge for the team, and while stopgap solutions like Marner could help in the interim, the front office appears keen to explore longer-term fixes. For fans of the blue and white, this has been a recurring theme. The Leafs' center depth often becomes a problem at the worst possible times. James Myrtle of The Athletic recently added more fuel to the speculation, naming several potential trade targets who could help the Leafs address their issues. Among them is Ryan O'Reilly, a familiar name for Toronto fans. O'Reilly, who signed a 4-year, $18 million deal with Nashville in 2023, might be a trade candidate if the Predators' underwhelming start to the season, 6-11-3, 31st in the league, prompts a rebuild. However, his steep price tag and history with the Leafs, including rejecting a free agency offer less than 2 years ago, make this a complex and potentially unlikely move. Other names mentioned by Myrtle include former Leaf Nazem Kadri, currently with Calgary, as well as players like Michael Granlund, Nick Jugstad, Brock Nelson, Yanni Gourde, Trent Frederick, Radek Faksa, and Sean Kuraly. While some of these options seem more plausible than others, it's clear that general manager Brad Treliving will need to get creative to find the right piece without mortgaging the team's future. Cap space remains one of the biggest obstacles for the Leafs. Unlike teams like Chicago and Nashville, which have more flexibility and assets, Toronto is walking a financial tightrope. As Friedman noted, competition will intensify as cap-constrained teams strive to create room. For the Leafs, that could mean waiting for the market to develop further, a risky move given their current needs. The situation also highlights the Leafs' ongoing struggle to build a roster that can withstand the grueling nature of an NHL season. Injuries are an inevitability in hockey, but Toronto's current predicament underscores the importance of depth, a quality the team has struggled to consistently maintain. Looking back on recent years, the Leafs have often leaned heavily on their star players, particularly Matthews, Marner, and William Nylander. While these players have delivered in spades, the lack of reliable depth options has left the team vulnerable in critical moments. The current crisis at center is merely the latest example of this recurring issue. Some fans have called for more aggressive moves from Treliving, arguing that now is the time to strike while the team's core is in its prime. Others, however, are more cautious, pointing to the dangers of overpaying for short-term fixes. Striking the right balance will be key, especially as the Leafs aim to keep their championship window open. Despite the challenges, there's no denying that Toronto has the talent to be a contender, provided they can patch up their lineup. The ongoing rumors and speculation surrounding potential trades show that the Leafs are at least exploring every avenue to strengthen their roster. For fans of the blue and white, this moment feels like a pivotal point in the season. With a lineup ravaged by injuries and a tough schedule ahead, the Leafs must act decisively to avoid falling behind in the standings. The addition of a dependable center could be the difference between weathering the storm or watching another season slip away. Whether it's O'Reilly, Kadri, or another surprise name, one thing is certain: the Leafs are under pressure to deliver. And for a fan base as passionate and loyal as Toronto's, there's no room for excuses. The time to act is now, and Leafs Nation is watching closely. As the trade deadline approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher. Will Treliving pull off a move that solidifies the Leafs' status as a contender, or will the search for center depth become yet another chapter in the team's long history of what-ifs? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, it's never boring in Leafs land. As the Maple Leafs navigate this critical juncture, their fan base remains as vocal as ever. Toronto is a city that breathes hockey, and the pressure on Brad Treliving to make the right moves is immense. Every decision he makes, or doesn't make, will be scrutinized, from talk radio to social media, where Leafs Nation is already debating the merits of the various names being floated as potential trade targets. Among the louder debates is whether the team should prioritize a high-profile acquisition like Ryan O'Reilly or Nazem Kadri, or focus on a lower-cost, reliable center who can fill a supporting role without costing too many future assets. While O'Reilly's leadership and playoff experience make him an attractive option, his contract and recent history with the Leafs add layers of complexity to any potential reunion. Similarly, Kadri's gritty, two-way playstyle remains a fan favorite, but his cap hit and availability might render him an unrealistic target. Another factor complicating the Leafs situation is their tight salary cap. While Chicago and Nashville can make moves with relative ease due to their financial flexibility, Toronto must navigate a labyrinth of constraints to make any trade work. This likely means including salary retention or moving existing contracts to make room, which could drive up the cost of any potential deal. The question then becomes, how much are the Leafs willing to sacrifice to address their immediate needs? One potential trade partner generating buzz is the Seattle Kraken. Yanni Gourde, a dependable two-way center, has been mentioned as a possible target. Gourde's versatility and championship pedigree from his time with Tampa Bay make him an appealing option. Seattle, however, is in playoff contention and may not be inclined to part with a key piece unless the Leafs can provide a substantial return. Another intriguing name is Brock Nelson of the New York Islanders. Nelson is a consistent scorer and reliable faceoffman, qualities that would undoubtedly bolster Toronto's center depth. However, the Islanders are notoriously cautious when it comes to trades, and prying Nelson away would likely require a significant package, including picks or prospects that the Leafs may be hesitant to part with. For all the trade talk, some analysts believe the solution might come from within. Sheldon Keefe has shown a willingness to experiment with his lineup, and players like Pontus Holmberg or Fraser Minton could be given an opportunity to step up. While relying on less experienced players carries risks, it might be the Leafs' only option if the trade market proves too costly or slow to develop. Adding to the Leafs' urgency is the timing. The Atlantic Division remains one of the toughest in the league, with teams like Boston, Florida, and Tampa Bay continuing to dominate. Any prolonged slump could see Toronto slip further down the standings, putting their playoff hopes in jeopardy. For a team with Stanley Cup aspirations, failing to address their weaknesses could have catastrophic consequences. Brad Treliving's history as a general manager suggests he's not afraid to make bold moves. His time with the Calgary Flames was marked by blockbuster trades, including the acquisition of Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar in the Matthew Tkachuk deal. Leafs fans hope he brings that same decisiveness to Toronto, especially as the trade deadline looms. Beyond the immediate need for a center, this situation underscores a broader issue with the Leafs roster construction. Depth has been a perennial concern, and while Toronto boasts some of the league's top-end talent, their reliance on a handful of stars has left them vulnerable in moments like this. Moving forward, addressing this imbalance must be a priority for the front office if the team is to achieve sustained success. As the Leafs head into a critical stretch of the season, the next few weeks could define their trajectory.